Hey, it's EA for Yarn, and today I'm going to show you how to make a cute little snowman on your Addi Express professional knitting machine. So let's get started. Now I have already done the knitting on the Addi machine to make this video a little shorter. I have 2 balls here, so to make these balls you're going to need to go watch my how to make balls on your Addi knitting machine video. This ball is 18 rows and this ball is 14 rows, and both of these are double lined. So in other words, I made one knitted ball first, stuffed it full of white scrap yarn. If you wanted to use fiber fill, you could do that. And then I took another knitted cover and covered it again, so that this is 2 layers of knitting over the top of the scrap yarn, so it's not poking out or showing through. And I also made a little mini hat, and this is 27 rows total on the little Addi, and I made a little mini pom-pom. Now the inside here is a different color, but that's totally optional. It is not half one color and half the other color. It's actually a little less than half of the mint and more than half of the green here. So this hat is just going to fit on the smaller ball like that. So the first thing I'm going to do, this ball right here has already been knotted and tied off, and this one has already been knotted and tied off. So I'm going to take my yarn needle here, bury one of these tails, and I'm going to use the other tail to attach the head of the snowman onto his body, like that. So I'm going to bring my needle out a little bit from the center and line up the cinched parts of the snowman. Doesn't have to be precise, but line it up somewhat. And I'm going to be stitching the snowman's head to his body all the way around. Alright, so now that his head is attached to his body, I'm going to tie off this piece of yarn by making a knot and burying the tail. Now I'm going to use the rest of this tail as seaming yarn to attach his little hat, like so. So I'm going to start in the back, and I'm going to leave a little tail in my yarn, and I'm just going to start stitching his hat on. Alright, so now I've got the hat attached all the way around, and I'm just going to take those 2 tails, tie them together in a double knot, and bury both of them. Alright, so now that you've got the hat on, we're going to turn him over. And I have some black sewing thread here, and I like to run my sewing thread through a cake of beeswax to keep it from tangling, but that is totally optional. So I'm going to look at this little guy and find the center of the highest point where his hat is, where his hat is up the highest, so that should be the center of his face. So I'm going to sew 2 buttons on his body, just like that. And to do that, I'm not going to start from underneath the fabric but above it. I'm going to start by going down through the button, leaving a tail, going under the yarn and coming back up. And I'm going to do this several times through each pair of holes. And you may have to tip it up a bit to get underneath the yarn. And we just want to make sure that's tight. And now we're going to do the same thing on the bottom pair of holes. And now I'm going to take the tail of my thread that I started with, tie it together in a double knot, or a triple knot if you prefer, with my sewing thread, and I'm going to bury both tails in the snowman. But for now I'm going to leave this one unburied because I'm still going to use the remaining length of thread for the second button, and that would require unthreading it to bury that at the moment. So I'm just going to do this one first and then bury both of the starting tails at the same time. Alright, so I'm just going to tie these two together as well, and now I'm going to bury all of them. And I like to do that by going down through the buttonhole first. Alright, so now that you have his little buttons on his body, we're going to go ahead and make the eyes and the nose. And I'm going to make the nose with some orange felt. You just need a little piece. And we're going to make a little cone shape to make the carrot. And to cut out a cone shape, we're going to cut out basically a triangle with one rounded side. So I'm using a pair of Fiskars. I believe they're called micro tip scissors. I really like these for cutting felt, anything with small points in the design. So I'm just going to cut out a triangular shape on two sides and slightly curve the bottom. Doesn't have to be precise, but we're going to sew this just like that so that it makes a little cone shape like a carrot, and attach it to our snowman's face. And I think I'm actually going to make it a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to go ahead and wax my orange thread. I'm going to go ahead and knot it. Trim the excess. And I'm just going to whip stitch these edges together, starting from the inside so the knot is on the inside. Alright, so now we've got our little carrot nose, and I'm just going to take my scissors closed, with the blades closed, and just poke it up in there to round out the shape a bit. And then we're just going to stitch this onto our snowman's face. But before I do that, I started at the wide end on purpose because it's very difficult to start on the pointy end when it's that small. So now what I need to do to get back to the wide end is kind of whip stitch a little bit back to get back to where I started. Alright, so now I'm back to that end. I'm going to go ahead and just tweak the shape with my scissors again, just to make sure that it is round and not flat. And we're just going to decide where we want to put this on our snowman's face. And you need it to be centered, so I'm going to put mine right there. So we're just going to hand stitch this to our snowman's face. Once you've got your placement where you want it to be, make sure that you have room for the eyes, but don't make it too far down so it looks like his mouth. I'm going to take one stitch into the yarn, and then from that point on I want to start my stitch with the felt, because I don't want to have to work the needle up this way. It's a lot harder. Alright, now I am back around to the beginning. My snowman has a cute little carrot nose, and I'm going to knot my thread and poke it back up through the carrot nose to bury it. So now we just need to make his eyes, his mouth, if you want him to have a mouth, and put his little scarf on, and he's going to be a snowman. So to make his little eyes and the coal for his mouth, the little chunks of coal for his eyes and his mouth are going to be French knots made out of black, bulky weight acrylic yarn, and I'm just going to use a tapestry needle for this. To make a French knot, you're going to come up, you're going to start way back here. You're going to come up wherever you want the eye to be. I want mine to be about right there. So I'm going to pick up one knitted stitch, and then I'm going to, making sure that the yarn stays twisted. I don't want to twist the yarn the opposite way and make it unravel. I'm going to wind the yarn around the needle several times. That's about 5. And you want to make sure that you keep some tension on that and pull the eye through. And the eye is a little tight here because I tightly wrapped my yarn. And you're just going to pull on that until it makes a little knot. And then I'm going to come down and across just a little bit to the place where I'm going to put my next knot for his other eye. Ta-da! And I'm going to do the same thing. For the last one I did 5 wraps, so I'm going to do 5 wraps here. There we go. Now he has 2 eyes. And so I'm going to make about 5 knots for his mouth. So I'm going to start by deciding where I want the one in the center, which is going to be right there. Then I'm going to come up 2 and curve it up a bit so that I know where I want the first knot for his mouth. So now I just need to make the other 2 knots for the rest of his mouth be even with the ones on the other side. Alright, so now our snowman has a mouth. and we just need to hide the tails. So because these are all knots, I'm not too worried about this coming unraveled. So I'm just going to go through the stuffed part to bury these tails. And I want to make sure that when I bury them, I pull on the tail before I cut it so that the end sinks back into the white part. And I'm just going to give the last knot, the fabric behind it, a little tug so that it's not being pulled tight. And this one I'm just going to trim because it's already knotted technically right here. And as long as that's buried inside the fabric and it doesn't show, then we can move on to his scarf. So I've got a little piece of I-cord for his scarf. This is about 14 inches long. You can tie it in a knot if you prefer, just like that, if that's the way you like it. Or if you want, you can also attach it by stitching it on. So there you have it. You now have a cute little snowman made on your Addi knitting machine. Now, if you wanted to make a giant snowman, you could also do the same thing on your Addi King by making 2 great big balls, but making the head ball a little bit smaller. And then you would make a regular hat on the Addi to fit that head-sized ball and attach all of the decorations as I've done right here. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you made this little snowman, please leave a comment below and tell me how it turned out for you. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.